What if I told you one of the fastest running backs in college football is sitting inside the Georgia backfield right now? And what if I told you 2026 may be the year Nate Frazier goes from talented SEC runner to one of the first backs taken in the NFL draft? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Draft Yoda, where we're dad-driven and prospect-focused. As always, I am Draft Yoda himself, Bill Workman, your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd. Today, we're talking about Georgia running back Nate Frazier. Frazier's currently carrying a 9.06 grade on my 10-point scale, making him the number 31 overall prospect and my number 5 running back going into the 2026 season. Being the number 5 running back isn't a knock on Frazier. This running back group is loaded. Hardy, most complete runner. We did a video on him. Lacey, touchdown machine. We did a video on him. Fletcher, the power profile and historical playoff performance. Did a video on him. Isaac Brown, who is literally a home run waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. Did a video on him. And now we're at Nate Frazier. Frazier might be the one who has the cleanest path to rise in this draft class. And that's because when you combine Georgia pedigree, elite time speed, SEC production, receiving upside, and a chance for more volume in 2026, you have a player who could climb fast if everything comes together. Nate Frazier came to Georgia with real expectations. Came out of Mater Dei High School in Southern California, and that's a high school name that most people that follow college football and football in general will know because, it's a factory. It is the closest thing to a high school factory we have of putting college players out. And Frazier stood out there. He was a consensus 4-star recruit. Rivals ranked him, I think, the number 2 running back in the country, was at the All-American Bowl. And he has elite time speed at 10.58 100-meter time as a junior. That's fast. And that's real speed, that's track speed, that's verified speed. There's no questioning that speed. What makes this story even more interesting is Frazier wasn't always a running back. He actually played wide receiver until midway through his junior year, where he made the full-time switch to running back. And I think that shows up in his production because when you watch him, there's a natural space player element to his game. He's not just your traditional downhill back. He's an athlete with running back instincts, still catching up to his elite movement skills. And that matters when you're projecting what he could be down the road. As a true freshman in 2024, Frazier didn't have to come in and carry Georgia's offense right away. That's not how Georgia does it. They rotate backs, they develop players, and they make young players earn trust. Frazier worked himself in to the rotation fairly quickly and finished the season with 671 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns on 133 carries. That is a strong production for a true freshman on a championship level team. He earned himself SEC All-Freshman honors. But the moment a lot of Georgia fans will remember will be the 8 overtime game against Georgia Tech. With the game on the line, Georgia put the ball in a true freshman, Nate Frazier's hands. And he punched it in, and it was a game-winning 2-point conversion. That tells you a lot. Coaches don't give the ball to a player they don't trust, especially not in a rivalry game, especially not in a high-pressure moment. That was a sign, an early sign, that Frazier wasn't just a speed back. He was a player Georgia believed in, and they believed he could handle big situations. In 2025, his role grew, became Georgia's leading rusher, 947 yards, 6 touchdowns on 137 carries, added another 16 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. And the receiving production matters here because it isn't elite yet, but it gives you a foundation to see, what he could become in a passing game. And NFL teams want running backs who can catch. 2025, he racked himself up all SEC third team honors. Again, not nothing. The SEC is loaded with backs year in and year out. And any all conference recognition, especially as a true sophomore, is big. Now, his season wasn't perfect. There's ball security concerns, pass protection questions, there's moments where his speed didn't translate into as many explosive runs as you would expect. And ending the season with an ankle injury in the Sugar Bowl, leaves some lasting questions. But when you take a step back and you look at the whole profile, you see a rising player. He's a young back. He's fast. He's productive. And he's a player whose best football is still ahead of him. If you're looking for a game that shows what Nate Frazier can be, start with Mississippi State. He had 12 carries for 181 yards. That is over 15 yards per carry. That is explosive football. That's a type of game where every touch feels dangerous. What stood out in that game wasn't just the speed, it's how quickly he got north and south. When Frazier sees daylight, there isn't much wasted movement. He hits a crease, he accelerates, and suddenly the defense is in the wrong angles and trying to recover as fast as they can. And that's a trait that makes him interesting because some backs need volume to create damage. Frazier can do it on any play. That Mississippi State tape is the version of Nate Frazier that scouts are excited by because it's the version that if it becomes more consistent, we're going to be talking about a player who can completely change a way defenses play Georgia. There's things I love about him. First off, it's his speed. Let's be real, it's the headline trait. Frazier is one of the fastest backs in this class. And it's not just football fast. It's actual fast, verified fast, track speed fast. And when he gets into space, he can erase angles. Defensive backs who think they have leverage suddenly don't. Linebackers who think that they can close an alley suddenly can't. And that's how speed changes defenses. That's how it changes the geometry of a defense. The second thing I love about him is his pedigree. Georgia running backs are coached hard. They are asked to do more than just run the football. They're asked to protect. They're asked to share the rock. They're asked to understand spacing. And they have to fit into a physically demanding offensive identity. And Frazier is developing in that environment, and that is important because NFL teams evaluate Georgia players. They know those players have been in a professional development style system. Third thing I love is the receiving foundation. 16 catches isn't going to make him Christian McCaffrey, but it still matters. He's a player who played receiver early in his football life, and there's a reason to believe that part of the game is still there. If Georgia expands his passing role game in 2026, his NFL value jumps because a back with this kind of speed who can threaten defenses as a receiver as well becomes a matchup nightmare. I also want to mention his arrow. The arrow is pointing up. He's young, productive, and fast. He's already been trusted in important moments, and he's still learning how to play running back. I mean, he started playing running back as midway through his junior year. So his senior year, he had a full season. Freshman year, he had a full season. Sophomore year, he's had 3 seasons playing running back. That matters. A lot of these guys have been playing it much longer. And if he's this explosive and this dangerous after 3 years of playing the position, imagine what 2 more years of knowledge of playing the position can do for him. It's wild. Um, Modern NFL wants space players. Teams value power, teams value vision, teams value short yardage ability, but explosive plays matter more than they ever did. You need players who can turn a 5-yard run into a 50-yard run. And Nate Frazier can do that. And he has that gear to really set himself apart. All this to say, nobody's perfect. I've said in every single one of these, nobody has gotten a perfect 10. The first issue you're going to see when you look at Nate Frazier is ball security. 2 fumbles created a narrative that he had to spend the rest of 2025 out running. Now, being fair, the narrative calmed down towards the end of the year. But once a running back puts the ball on the ground multiple times, coaches remember. And NFL coaches really remember. Ball security is a non-negotiable for a running back. Number 2 is his pass protection. It is the gateway skill for third downs. If you can't protect your quarterback, NFL coaches will hesitate to leave you on the field. And Frazier's tape right now is just okay. It's not terrible. It's not unplayable, but it's not where you want it to be yet. He has the athleticism, he has the willingness. Just the technique and the anchors need to improve for him to be viewed as a competent pass protection running back. Third concern is the explosive run count. This sounds strange because we're talking about how he's one of the fastest backs in the class, but the actual number of explosive runs was more modest than you'd expect from somebody with his speed. Tells you the vision is still catching up to the velocity. The speed's there. The anticipation is trying to match and catch up to it. Because elite backs aren't just fast. They know when to run fast. They know how to set up blocks. And they know how to manipulate linebackers. And that's the next step for Frazier. That's why it's so important that he is still learning this position. Number 4 concern I have for him is the concern I have for every running back coming out of Georgia. It's the sheer workload. He's never carried more than 173 times in a season. It's not a small number for a running back, but it's also not a workhorse test. Can he handle 250? Can he handle, 275? Can he be the guy week in and week out? We haven't seen that yet. And that's more on Georgia than it is on Nate Frazier because their rotation kind of prohibits that. Hopefully in 2026 we get to see a little bit more, but right now that's what Georgia does. The question I know people are going to ask is, after all this hype, why is he RB5 on my list? And it's because the 4 backs ahead of him have answered slightly more questions. Hardy is a more complete back right now. Lacey has proven that he can carry a massive workload and finish drives better than anyone in the class. Mark Fletcher has shown his power profile, and that playoff resume is outstanding. Isaac Brown has shown more explosive per touch basis and has shown game-breaking productivity when healthy. And Frazier just kind of fits in behind that, not because he lacks talent, but because he needs more proven volume, more protection, more ball security, and to be consistently explosive, to really start that climb. But if he can show that, he is going to climb fast, so very fast. It's why 2026 is huge for Nate Frazier. This is the year where the production needs to become, where the projection needs to become the production. He's already led Georgia in rushing. Now can he show he can be the centerpiece? Can he be more than a talented rotational back? Can he carry a championship offense? Can he protect the football? Can he protect his quarterback? Can he turn that 10.58 speed into more game-changing runs? Those are the questions this season for him. And because he's at Georgia, the stage is massive. Every week matters. Every SEC defense is going to test him. Every NFL scout is going to be watching week in and week out. A strong junior season could move Frazier from RB5 into the top of the class. It's there because the physical tools are good enough. He just needs consistency. That's my grade on him. I grade him as a 9.06 out of 10. Number 31 overall prospect, number 5 running back, and one of the biggest risers potentially in the 2027 class. I think he's a future NFL contributor. I think he's got starter upside. And I think his speed gives him one of the most dangerous ceilings in the running back group. The key is, can he become more than just fast? Can he develop the pass pro, the security, that turns that speed into a consistently explosive product? If he does that, Nate Frazier won't stay RB5 for long. But again, that's just my board. Do you think Nate Frazier is underrated? Do you think he climbs into the RB1 conversation and takes over RB1? Where do you rank him? Is he the best running back in college football? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a discussion. If you enjoy these player evaluations, I build them around film and analytics. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to keep putting in the work. My goal is to have 100 prospects before college football kicks off this year. I am Draft Yoda, Bill Workman, your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd, and we'll see you guys in the next one.